Hey mamas, you're listening to the Balanced Working Mama podcast, the only podcast teaching you how to balance your work, motherhood, and wellness. I am Dr. Amber Thornton, clinical psychologist and mama wellness consultant. Each week we dive into tips and strategies and much more so that you too can become a balanced working mama. Let's dive in. Hey mamas, welcome to the Balanced Working Mama podcast. And we are actually here in the very last episode of season 8. So season 8 began in April, and this is our 10th episode in this season. Actually, today is episode 80, and it's really hard to believe that I have consistently recorded 80 episodes for this podcast, which comes out to about 2 years. We started in July. July of 2020 is when I started this podcast. And so here we are now, very close to July of 2022. So I guess I should be celebrating 2 years on the podcast soon. Either way, I am so happy that you're here listening, so happy to be talking with you. And to wrap up this final episode in this season, because we will be back at the first week of July, I actually just wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been doing so far with the podcast, how it's been going in the community, but then also what you can expect from both the podcast and the community this coming quarter, which will begin July. I always like to plan around quarters. And so I don't know if you all do that, but if you ever hear me talking about a quarter, I'm talking about 3 months out of the year. So Q1 or quarter one is January, February, March. Q2 is April, May, June, which we are wrapping up right now. We're wrapping up the second quarter of the year. We are moving into Q3, which is July, August, and September. And then lastly, Q4 is October, November, December. So we are gearing up for Q3, both in the community, but then on the podcast. And each quarter always brings something new. So I want to just talk about that a little bit, just so that you all can know what direction we're headed in, so can know what to expect. We really have a lot of exciting things happening with Balanced Working Mama. Again, both the podcast and the community. There's some other things going on too, but I can't talk about those yet. Eventually, you all, oh my gosh, but I'm just really so happy about what Balanced Working Mama is becoming and how far we have come. For those of you who have been here for a while, you know Balanced Working Mama started in the middle of the pandemic, actually the very beginning of the pandemic, and that actually was not intentional. I remember it was about February of 2020. I had a infant at that time, my son. It was right before the pandemic was coming. We had no idea, but I knew at that time that I was seeing so many moms around me struggle to maintain their identities, to be moms, to be partners, to work. They were just really struggling. And the way that I saw it, it was almost as if, millennial moms are really struggling with this version of motherhood that they grew up seeing, but then also this new world that they were living in, which did not necessarily fit this new version. I saw a lot of moms really overcompensating in so many ways. I saw a lot of moms really overdoing it and overwhelming themselves. And, motherhood is already overwhelming, but to be doing these things that complicate the process and to not be asking for help and to be, trying to meet everyone's expectations and putting yours aside, that's too much. And so that was my desire to not only keep myself accountable and really creating an experience of motherhood that I want, that I feel proud of, but that also my daughter, if she chooses to become a mother, would also be able to look up to and model. I wanted to do this for the moms around me. And so that is what we've done with the podcast. Back when Empower Wellness Program was happening, that's what we did. And then now the community. And so I am, again, just so pleased. And I want to actually talk about the community a little bit. I'm really proud of the fact that the community, as of today, is about almost 6 months old. Started January 1st. And here we are nearing June. in June. And we have steadily grown and maintained our identity as a community very, very well. We have about 70 mamas in our community right now. We will be reopening our community July, the first week of July. Let me actually check the date so I can be super certain about this. Our community will open, Friday, July 1st. That's exciting. I love when the first falls on a Friday. So please mark your calendars, put that in your planners. Friday, July 1st is when our community will open again. And so in the community, y'all, we've been doing so many really, really, really amazing things. So I want to share some of them with you, especially some of the highlights in our community. One thing right now that we are really excited about and preparing for is our book club. So far, we have read one book in our book club. We read Feeding the Soul by Tabitha Brown, and that was really a hit. Like, I was surprised at how many of the mamas really wanted to actually engage intellectually with one another through books and reading. And so, what we did was we picked our book and we all selected it together. We decided on this book and we decided to read the book in halves. So the first half we would read, and then we had a book club meeting. And then we would finish the second half, and then we will have our final book club meeting. Those meetings, y'all, were amazing because we were able to not only just talk about the content of the book, but then also how it applied to our lives. And you get to do it in community with other moms who are in a similar place, in a similar space. Feeding the Soul brought up a lot for us in so many ways, just with regard to like partnership and career and motherhood, fitness and health, because you all know Tabitha Brown is vegan. So just all these things that came up, grief and loss. She talked a lot about her mom passing. And so there was so much for us to talk about. And we really benefited from that. We actually are gearing up and beginning our second book in the community. We have decided to read All About Love, New Visions by Bell Hooks. This one actually came up because we had one of our Zoom calls, which we call our check-in. And I'll talk about that later. But in a Zoom call, we were actually on the topic of mother-daughter relationships. This has been a really big theme in our community lately, really just kind of reflecting on our own experiences of our moms and what it has done for us, how it's impacted us both positively and negatively. And the book All About Love came up because one of our mamas talked about how impactful it was in helping her to better understand love. And so you all know All About Love is literally my favorite book of all time. It is truly the book that has changed my life the most. And I was so happy that someone brought this book up. So when we were deciding what our second book club pick would be, so many of the mamas were like, yo, we got to read All About Love because it feels like that's something that's super relevant to us right now, just in how we are redefining our motherhood experience, but then also wanting to better understand what love looks like as we grow to love our children, as we are healing from love that we did or didn't receive from our mothers and parents, but then also as we are learning to love ourselves. So I know this is going to be a really, really, really good one. We typically read a book in the book club once per quarter. So book club has been awesome. Another thing in the community that has been really dope is our Zoom calls. And so with our Zoom calls, we typically have different topics that we're talking about or different reasons for why we're having a call. And some of the more popular ones lately have been our check-ins. And so really our check-ins are just open Zoom calls where any mama can come on and we're just chatting. There's no agenda, there's no plan. It's literally just like, yeah, let's just check in. Let's just talk. Like, how's it going? And I love those because it's like whatever is on your mind, whatever you need in the moment, it just comes out. It's very impromptu, but you are guaranteed to leave feeling supported, feeling validated, feeling heard, feeling seen, but then also feeling reflective and or intrigued by something that either you said, you got feedback on, or that another mama said in there. That's actually how the mother-daughter conversation started to come up. It wasn't really a theme in our community until our check-ins. And this topic of, thinking about our moms as we're thinking about ourselves really started to expand a little bit more. So those check-ins are really, really dope. We typically have about one a month. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing more of those. We also have been having community experts, you all. So for Q1, so January, February, March, our community expert was Coach Christina, and her area of expertise was health and fitness. And so what she did was she hosted Zoom calls in our community to help mamas to better understand what they need in terms of building a consistent workout routine, and then also any other health and fitness challenges or issues that they've been having. So those were really helpful. A lot of our mamas learned a lot about what their barriers were in terms of getting consistent with health and fitness. Some of the mamas learned how to better plan their meals because many of our mamas realized that they're not eating enough, or some of them realized maybe they were eating too much and just needed to better plan and or track their meals. It was really eye-opening for many of us, and I think a lot of our mamas were really open to that at the start of the year. So that was a good one for Q1. But Q2, we've had Ashley Brown of Routine and Things in our community. And that has been really amazing too, because Ashley Brown's area of expertise is organization and routines. And so she's really walked our mamas through a class series on how to build a really solid self-care routine. Many of our mamas love Ashley. They follow her, they listen to her podcast. So they have been really excited to not only learn from her, but then also have really close, intimate interactions with her. And I think that's the other thing I really love about our community is that it's large, but still small enough to feel intimate still. So if there is an expert, even including me, the mamas in our community know a lot more about me than what I might share on Instagram. Also, the mamas get to learn and talk to our experts because our experts are often members of the community as well, or for that quarter, they are a really close member of that community. So they get really nice, close, deep contact with our experts and with myself included. But the routine building workshops have been really, really good. So we're coming up on Q3. Q3 will start July 1st. And I already told you all the community will reopen July 1st through the 8th. So that whole week will be open and we'll be accepting new mamas in our community. And so many of our mamas are probably wondering, well, what are we going to be doing for Q3? You're probably wondering, what are we doing for Q3? I actually have not shared this with our mamas yet, but there's going to be a bit of a twist and a surprise for how we're going to be doing Q3. And so I've been thinking about Q3. Q3 is going to be different, y'all, than any of the other quarters so far because it's the summertime. Like it's July, August, and September. The mamas are trying to be out. The mamas are trying to have fun. Some of them are trying to kick it. And so I really was thinking about what that meant for our community, which is a virtual community. How can we ensure that our mamas in our community are having fun while also still engaged in our community? So we're going to do some things differently in our community for Q3. So one thing I'm super excited about, and y'all listen to the podcast, so y'all getting this information first. I literally have not shared this anywhere yet. My goal is to have 2 in-person meetups this quarter. These meetups are for mamas in our community, but also anyone who loves and appreciates Balanced Working Mama. I know that one of our meetups will be in DC because that is where I live, and we will have a second meetup in a different location outside of DC. So more to come on that. Definitely subscribe to the email list so you can get more information about that, or follow me on Instagram because I will definitely be sharing more about when these 2 meetups will be happening, but they will be in the summer months, July, August, late June, potentially. But I'm super excited about that because I've been wanting to really expand how we are thinking about Balanced Working Mama, and everything we do is virtual, which is great. And I want to be able to eventually touch base with and talk with, communicate with you all in person too. I think there's a space for that, and I'm wanting to move in that direction a little bit more. So we're going to be having those meetups. Another thing that the mamas in our community said that they want for the summertime is they want to have fun. And so we are going to be doing something for Q3 that really helps us to like get into the hot mama summer vibes. And so that's something that we say in our community a lot. We're trying to have a hot mama summer because that's truly how we feel. And if you all are feeling that way too, you absolutely belong in our community because honestly, many of our mamas feel like for so many years and for so long, they have been prioritizing the needs of their children, prioritizing the needs of their partners, their families. And they have not really taken the time to just fully embrace who they are as women, embracing how they feel, feeling confident in their new bodies. Like, our mamas are tired of not feeling good, not feeling confident, not feeling seen, and they're really ready to step out this summer and just feel amazing in anything that they wish to do. And so we are going to have a hot mama summer in the community, and I hope that you will come and join us. There's going to be many, many things that we're doing in the community that will just really help to bring that feeling of confidence, that feeling of empowerment, that feeling of you really stepping into this woman that you either have always been and maybe was just kind of like undermined because you became a mom, or this whole new person that you're evolving into. That's what we're on for Q3. Q3, we will not have a community expert because I'm going to be the expert in the community for Q3, and I'm really excited about that, you all. I think forgot just in the cycle of me building the community while I'm the person that's facilitating it all, making it all happen. I still got some things I want and need to share with my mamas too. So I'm really going to help push my mamas this quarter to really step into that version of themselves where they feel like they can have fun, they can feel confident, they can feel good, and really just enjoy themselves. We're also going to be doing some things too where we focus a little bit more intently on our wellness. And so all of our mamas in the community take a motherhood wellness assessment. And so with that, what I've noticed in the community so far is that we usually take the assessment the start of the quarter, but then we don't really do anything with it as the quarter kicks off because we start doing other things in the community. But for Q3, I really want the tone to be, how are we going to tap into this hot mama summer, but then also how can we use our motherhood wellness assessment and our wellness assessment results to actually really tap into what the things you need in terms of wellness. So really focusing and honing in on that wellness. So really getting back to the basics, to be honest, is what we're going to be doing for Q3. So I'm really, really, really excited about what Q3 is going to look like in the community. I think our mama's going to love it. But then also, if you are listening and you've been considering joining the Balanced Working Mama community, this is the time because we are going to have a really, really, really solid foundational summer that will then set you up for Q4 and the rest of the year. So please consider joining us. Again, our community will open July 1st on a Friday and we will close Friday, July 8th. So, stay tuned. Again, make sure that you're subscribed to the email list so you can get all the reminders of when our community opens, so you can get all the updates on any in-person events that we do, so you can get updates on what are the other things I said? All those things. Follow on Instagram, subscribe to the newsletter. Also, of course, stay subscribed to the podcast because anytime there's a big update, I'll always do a mini episode just to let you all know. So that's where we're at with the community. And again, I'm really excited. I feel like before we know it, it'll be a whole year in the community and then we'll have to celebrate that too. But either way, that is what we can expect for Q3 in the community. So now, before I go, I want to tell you all what to expect for season 9 of the podcast. So season 9 of the podcast will begin on Monday, July 4th. And so I have been planning ahead for several months now. And so we really have most of our episodes already scheduled for July and for season 9. So July, August, and September. and I want to share some of the highlights with you. So, to kick off the ninth season of the podcast in July, I actually, again, want to get back to the basics and talk about the difference between balance and wellness. This is something you all hear me talk about all the time. We need to have balance, we need to find wellness. And some of you might be a little confused about what those two things actually mean. So, I'm going to actually explain the difference a little bit more so you can have more clarity on what I mean when I say that. Then I asked my gynecologist to come talk to me on an episode, and she's going to talk through navigating birth control options. I feel like this was important, definitely for me, because I know I'm done having kids. And I don't know about you all, but birth control was definitely something that I needed to understand more and venture into so that I could plan properly for not growing my family. And so my gynecologist is coming. She has an episode with me where she talks through those things. We also have an episode with Marissa of Forever Marriages, and she's going to be talking with us about expressing our needs to build better trust in our partnerships. This one is so important because often what I notice is that we have needs in motherhood. And if we're partnered, we have needs, but it's hard for us to express our needs for so many reasons. But Marissa is really going to talk us through how we can begin to express our needs better to build more trust in our relationships. We also have another interview with Ray, the doula. If y'all follow her on Instagram, y'all know how awesome she is. She's going to be talking with us about PCOS. And I cannot remember if I've talked about this on the podcast, but my own experience of polycystic ovarian syndrome is something that I've dealt with since I was 17 years old, and now I'm almost 35, and something I'm continuing to understand and to learn. But more specifically, Ray is going to talk with us about how to feel more self-love as you navigate PCOS in motherhood. This is a very special topic, and I feel like it'll be something that's very relatable to a lot of the mamas. So I'm very excited for that one. And then, y'all, this one, I know y'all gonna love this one. Okay. So, a while back in the community, again, we have a lot of hot topics in our community. We got on the topic of sex. We started talking about sex and how it was going, how it wasn't going, how we needed more, how we needed like the topic of what sex looks like in motherhood was something that we were talking a lot about in the community. And then one of our mamas recommended someone that she follows and learns from, and the person is Samaya. And so I reached out to Samaya and I was like, hey, I have this community of moms and we're struggling with figuring out sex after motherhood. Can you talk to us on the podcast? And she said, absolutely. So y'all, at the end of season 9, we have a whole episode about creating the sex you want in motherhood. And so that's going to be a whole thing. So I'm really excited about that. That's going to be dope, y'all. And I'm so grateful for the community because it challenges me to expand my conversations about what's happening in motherhood, because I think these are the things we're afraid to talk about. These are the things that we shy away from, but they're happening. And so the community gives us a space to talk about these things together safely without judgment. But then also the podcast gives us the platform to really bring the dialogues to life a little bit more too for people who are not in our community just yet. Aside from that one, I also want to do an episode about ADA accommodations at work. This is not something that I have shared yet, but I plan to share season 9 of the podcast. But I actually am someone who has ADA accommodations on my job, and it is for anxiety, for mental health. And so because I have a diagnosis, an official diagnosis of anxiety, I, at my job, receive accommodations that allow me to work in different ways because of my anxiety. So I want to talk about that process because I realize that many of you also have mental health diagnoses and you have no idea what ADA accommodations are. So we will talk through that next season. And then lastly, I want to have a conversation about grace and what grace means. If y'all follow me on Instagram, y'all know a while back, this was a topic that I talked about in my stories and you all had so many opinions about it. So I want to bring it to the podcast as well. Woo. Okay. Are y'all excited? Are you all excited about season 9? I am. So I'm very excited. Again, the podcast is going to be dope next season. Please, please, please continue to subscribe, but then also share this podcast with another mama that you know, especially if some of the episodes coming up you think might resonate with her. Lastly, I hope that you will join us in our community. Our community will open on Friday, July 1st. Please put that in your calendar right now. Put it in your phone, set a reminder, because I want to see you in our community. I believe it's possible that you have been listening to this podcast for a long time. It's possible that you've been following me on Instagram for a long time. And there is a part of you that knows that this community is for you, that this community can be helpful for you, that our community can help to heal you as well. And we want to be a part of your journey. We want to be a part of your process. We're here for you. We're supporting, and we want to love on you as you work through rewriting your narrative of motherhood. So join us. Please join us. Of course, if y'all have questions about our community, you know where to find me. You can email me hello@dramberthornton.com. You can send me a message through the website balancedworkingmama.com. You can DM me on Instagram at Dr. Amber Thornton or at Balanced Working Mama. There's so many ways to reach out to me. Either way, let me know if you've been thinking about the community and or if you have questions. Okay, y'all. Well, I'm out. I'm about to go run some errands real quick. Enjoy the rest of my day, but I hope that you all have a really amazing week, and I'll talk to you soon. Hey, Mama. Thank you for listening to the Balanced Working Mama podcast. If you love this podcast, please be sure to rate it and share it with another mama that you know. And don't forget to follow me and Balanced Working Mama on Instagram. I'll talk to you soon.